Hello, and welcome to another edition of BNEWS In Depth. I'm your host, Rich Hosford. This month we are taking a deep look at one of Burlington's most well-known spots, the Burlington Mall. As everyone who has passed the mall in the last year has seen, there's a big renovation project underway. Simon Properties, owner of the mall, has been converting the former Sears store and Sears Auto Center building into a new development called The Village at Burlington Mall that will be a mixture of restaurants and smaller-sized stores as a way of keeping up with modern trends in retail. My first guest today is the man who can best bring us up to date on the project, Burlington Mall General Manager Justin Feldhouse. He and I talk about the need to keep up with the times and how the Village at the Burlington Mall does just that. After that discussion, I will speak with Burlington Area Chamber of Commerce President Rick Parker and Reber and Bronstein attorney Bob Buckley about the current state of malls and what malls might do in the future to keep customers coming in to shop and dine. But first, here's my interview with Burlington Mall General Manager Justin Feldhouse. Joined in the studio here with Burlington Mall General Manager Justin Feldhouse. Justin, thanks for coming in and talking about this, big renovation project you have going on over there.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
So let's talk a little bit. This opportunity opened up. Unfortunately, Sears closed. Sears has been with part of the mall for quite a long time, hadn't it?
Yeah, one of the original tenants. In fact, there was, until Sears left, there was Sears, Spencer's, believe it or not, and Ann Taylor, still original tenants that were still in the mall.
Oh, wow.
From 1968.
Quite a legacy there.
Yeah.
So, obviously, times are changing, things are changing. Sears did close. When that happened, was it an immediate decision just to make this kind of change? And let's talk about what the change is. So
sure.
One big box store went out and you decided not to replace it with another one. What are we looking at over there?
Yeah, so generally speaking, the way that we look at these redevelopments and opportunities is that we think about what the highest and best use is for the property, and every property is a little bit different. In the case of Burlington, we've been thinking about this before Sears left, about 5 years or so, what we would do with the space should it come back, given the financial situation with Sears at the time. And in this case, we're going to do a whole bunch of things. We've got the Sears Auto building that we're under construction with right now, almost done, and then the lower level of Sears we're going to gut and then turn that into a whole bunch of different pieces, and I can show you on the map.
Yeah, so if we go to the big map of the whole structure,
Yep.
So basically what people are used to seeing, they go in, they see Sears as a big store, and now
Yeah.
it's going to be actually part of the mall corridor, correct?
Correct, yeah. So there's why don't I start, I guess, with the former Sears Auto building.
Okay.
So that's the first phase that I think the shopper is going to see first. It's under construction now. The first tenant is getting ready to open. It's Cafe Nero. I think we announced that last week or so. They should open by the end of August, maybe beginning of September, sort of depending on how their construction goes.
Oh, that quick?
So really quick, yeah. So what we did was we took this building down and then built a new one, basically in the same footprint, just slightly different. It's 35,000 square feet. Sears Auto was, I think, 42,000 square feet. But it had a basement space, so it's slightly different configuration, but still smaller square footage. And then we're going to do sort of a mixture of restaurants, fast casual restaurants, the cafe obviously, and retail space, services all around that building. It's sort of a circle in the round, if that's the right term. That it's going to have storefronts all the way around it, 360 degrees.
Oh, okay, so it won't be one thing you enter into the center.
Yes,
and
correct.
kind of look around.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah,
everything.
outward-facing retail. So there'll be patios for the restaurants. There's nice landscaping already installed. We're just putting the finishing touches on it, trying to water it through this heat. So that's the first. That's the first phase. Yeah. Yes. I know. Trust me. All new landscaping, pavers on the patios. It's new sidewalks. That's the first phase, and that's going to open by the end of August, beginning of September. The rest of the tenants that are there, we'll probably see about 50% of the building open by the end of this calendar year, and then the rest of the spaces, the remaining 7 or 8, will open up by the end of the first quarter of 2020.
So you mentioned Cafe Nero. Any other sort of set in stone tenants coming in yet?
So we announced Cafe Nero. We announced You Break, I Fix, which is a cell phone repair store that's actually going to go right on the corner over here on this side, the Mall Road side.
Okay.
We have a few others. I can't quite announce them. I think there's something coming pretty soon.
Okay, very good. So you break, I fix, that's good. So people can go to the Apple store, buy a new phone, drop it, and then go over there.
Yeah. Yep. It's not I break, you fix. It's you break, I fix.
You break, I fix.
Right.
And I also understand that it's going to be a little bit more walkable than it was.
It's going to be a lot more walkable.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're doing, I don't even know how many miles or thousands of feet of sidewalk we're installing, but we're going to do the last piece of Burlington Mall Road. That'll connect from Middlesex Turnpike to the mall here. And so what that'll enable you to do is to be able to cross Middlesex Turnpike from Northwest Park, the apartments over there, and then come to the mall or continue down and go all the way down to Cambridge Street if you so wish.
Oh, very good.
It's a long walk. So there's that, and then there's also new sidewalks that come into the property and go all the way around. Actually, if we go to the other map,
Yep,
that I think might show up. Yeah, perfect. So what I did was I highlighted all of the sidewalks that we're building in blue.
Okay.
So you can see the new Burlington Mall sidewalk here that comes up. And then how it comes into the property, it goes all the way around. There's new sidewalks. And then the connectivity between the two buildings. The sidewalk on this side of the building where Sears was approximately 5 feet. Now it's going to be 20 feet. So much wider.
Right.
So that'll enable patios for outward-facing restaurants. And then on the other side, as you continue going towards the top of the screen, it actually expands to about 80 feet where we're going to be building a 1 acre park. And that's the area that's pictured here in green.
Oh, okay. And that'll have like a variety of landscaping and
plantings
and
flexible use, lawn space. There's some structured seating. There'll be oversized games. It's really sort of the jewel of the project. I think there's another slide or two in here of that, but before we get there, I just want to point out some of the other features.
Sure.
We have 3 new bus stops that we're adding. One of them was an existing bus stop, but it's a new shelter that's there. All of them are going to have shelters where there's really been just a patch of dirt in the past. So this will be a real safe place for people to go. That's right here in this square, red dot, if you will, on the Mall Road side. We're going to have another one at the top corner of that green park area. That's going to be for all the local shuttle buses. It'll be a consolidated space for the hotel shuttles, for the Lex Express, for the B line, so that they have close proximity to the other one that we're building at the end of the sidewalk that sort of meanders up towards the district. And that'll enable that sort of cross connection so that the local person in, say, Lexington or someone in Burlington can easily get to the mall, easily walk, go to the MBTA stop.
Now, it seems to be a trend that, rather than just having a place where it's just, go in, big box store, get what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. It seems more, with the walkability, with the park, where you mentioned, possibly games, more of like a user experience.
Yes.
A destination. We've seen that with 3rd Ave and changes the district, and I think maybe you guys will all complement each other. But talk about that trend as, not just come in, shop, leave, but come in, experience.
Sure. Everybody wants an experience now, right? It's not just, I'm going to go to the store, buy something and go. It's, what is my experience going to be like, right? That's, I think, why it's so easy to order online, right? Because it's quick. But what you miss from that is being able to touch the product. Shopping is a tactile sport. Mm-hmm. There's a reason that it's what do they call it? Retail therapy.
Okay.
Right? So you need to come in, you need to do something, you need to touch it. And then it's also the opportunity for you to socialize with other people. You have your group of friends. Most people these days are going out to eat as their way of socializing. And so that, I think, is what we're trying to accomplish here with the outward-facing restaurants, with the park area, that we're creating a place for people to gather and to socialize.
Right. Because I think, if I remember correctly, when you were sort of talking about this project in another venue, it came up that, the Burlington Mall is one of the most successful malls, but also has one of the shortest time of people staying there.
Yeah.
Talk about how this might help, address that for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the concept behind that is that we catch people as they're getting tired from walking around. Right, so they come in, they do their shopping, or they come in specifically with the thought of using or going to a restaurant, enjoying their experience there, and then they're sort of refreshed and can go back to shopping. And so that addition of those services is what's going to extend that stay.
And you also mentioned, the social aspect of it, because I remember, when I was a kid, that the mall was the place to go.
Yeah.
It was one, it was air conditioned, and
Yep.
a lot of our houses weren't.
Yep.
But also, it was just a way of a safe space away from parents that they, they would be comfortable dropping you off. Is that something that you're looking to recapture or reinforce, maybe, if it maybe recaptures the wrong word?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think people want sort of a hybrid of both, and I think that's what this project gives them. They say they have the opportunity to be outside in that flexible lawn area, and then if it gets hot or it's cold or it's raining, they can come inside, and there's air-conditioned space, there's soft seating, there's modern amenities, restrooms, concierge, etc.
Now, is there any thought of part of the project including any kind of entertainment venue, anything along those lines?
We'll probably end up having some sort of live entertainment on a recurring basis, but it's not out of the realm of possibility, but it's not happening.
But not necessarily a specific spot at this point, but it is something that
absolutely
is an option for as this thing, as development.
I'd love to have an entertainment venue.
Now, I know that a big part of this is going to be restaurants, and you said fast casual. We have a lot of restaurants opening in Burlington. One of the concerns I hear a lot from residents, especially on Facebook, is a lot of these restaurants that are opening are sort of, the price point is quite high, not really aimed at families.
Sure.
Or, unless you have a very wealthy family. What are you looking for as far as price point restaurants here?
We're looking at family friendly. We heard that loud and clear when we brought this to town meeting and we went through the planning approval process. We're not looking at white tablecloth. There's no more Capital Grills coming in town. I think we have enough of steak, heavy, like real heavy, high end, that kind of stuff. I think we're looking at something that's attainable for everybody. Can't tell you the names, obviously, but I think we're probably in the neighborhood of like $25 or maybe $30 maximum entree price per person. But that's what we're looking at.
Okay. Now, I know you said you announced Cafe Nero. I don't want to jump on you, but I already did report that Shake Shack is another one that has taken out papers, which I find exciting because I enjoy it. And that, I think, fits into what you're just saying. It's the price point of, for the families.
Yep.
And
I can't confirm or deny that, but I will say I saw the report.
It is in the planning process, which I've already put out there. So I won't put you on the spot any more than that. Just talk about, in general, why... I think we touched on this a little bit, but just how have malls in general kind of had to change in the last 10, 15 years, and how this project fits into that general trend? Sure.
Well, I think the whole world has changed really significantly in the last 10 years or so, and I think it's a result of obviously the recession that happened and people changed their spending habits, and we don't buy as much stuff as we used to. And what we found, or what we're finding, that the right ingredients for merchandising mix is that apparel is a smaller proportion of the overall merchandising mix. And so today, the mall is roughly, let's say, 80%, and these are round numbers, 80% apparel. So by doing this project, by continuing with the redevelopment and adding the restaurants and adding fitness and other concepts that are not apparel, we're going to diversify that mix and meet a little bit closer to what the modern day consumer is looking for.
And is it also just about more choice? Because before, obviously, we have a whole space that was Sears products and Sears things, but now we'll have a space that has who knows what,
Absolutely.
A bunch of different things. Is it about just allowing for a more varied experience? Is that...
Yeah, absolutely, and more local experience. We'd love to have some more local entrepreneurs in here. We have a couple right now in the mall that Hey Chick, for instance, is a local boutique. Andover resident, young lady who has a very successful boutique, just celebrated her 1-year anniversary of being in the mall. We're excited to have her, and we were looking for that sort of next generation of the new stores and what they might be. And so we're looking to have that in the mall as well.
Excellent. Let's bring up another one of the renderings here. So again, I just want to talk, about the design.
Yeah.
So, it looks, like you said, outward facing, so everything's looking out. But what were you going for as far as just the aesthetic of this project?
I'm not the designer, so I can't
Sure.
speak to that piece. But
well, you don't do everything?
I know, I wish. I do wear a lot of hats, but designer, unfortunately, in this case, is not one of them. But I mean, what I'll say is the corner spaces are proud of the rest of the roof line, so they're much larger, and so those are intended to be the restaurant spaces or the food service spaces. It is, God, I'm gonna mess this height level up. I want to say they're 20-foot storefronts.
Okay.
And then the rest of the building. And then the corner spaces are maybe 28 feet. So you can kind of get an idea of the scale of that in comparison. Beyond that, not a lot I can say about the design. Sure. I think it's an appropriate design for the community. I think it fits in here well. I think it fits in well with what the outward facing restaurants and shops and what the former Sears building is going to look like. It's certainly much better looking than what Sears was looking like before, and it'll be a much better appearance for Mall Road. Yeah,
you could definitely, tell it was an older part of the mall. I think.
Yeah,
had an older look to it.
Almost
and this has got
brutalist
a lot more
style. I think.
Right.
Yeah.
This has got a lot more of a modern look. And we have one more, I think. I think it's another somewhat aerial view here.
Yes.
Again, so. Like you were talking about, a lot of green space, a lot of patio seating.
Yep.
Is that something you're finding that people are really enjoying? Is that ability to kind of either inside, outside, out in nature, or?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what people want. They want to be outside. Fitness is so much more top of mind than it was 10 years ago. And even if you're not specifically doing exercising outside, you still want to be outside. And I think that's what this development affords. So this, what we didn't talk about, this is actually what the Sears main building that's attached to the mall today is going to look like from the outside.
Very different.
Very different. And you can see it's all storefronts. There is patios for all the restaurants. And then there's this lawn space that's out here that we're talking about doing all kinds of things from skating rink to live music. Still trying to nail down exactly what that's going to be. But it's definitely going to be the hub of activity, and we think it's the jewel of the project.
Yeah, I mean, it looks, like I said when we first brought it up, like just so different than as it has, and I think ties in more with like I said, the concept of outside, like we're seeing at other projects in town. How do you think, this redevelopment kind of fits in with just the trends we're seeing in Burlington? Like I said, with like Third Ave, with the district, and just trying. Like you were talking about, more walkability. But how do you think this is going to fit in with neighboring projects?
I think it's a compliment. I mean, I think the more critical mass that we have in Burlington, the better it is for all of us. That's in terms of restaurants and retail and just the commercial sector. As long as it stays in the commercial sector, I get that.
Right.
But in terms of the way that it sort of fits in the industry, I think what the district and I think what Nordblum and Third Ave has done is really good. I happen to think our project maybe is a little bit better, but only because it's a hybrid, right? So we've got that same flexible outdoor space, but we have the interior common area that's air conditioned and heated, and we have restrooms, and we have the other amenities that you'd expect with that.
Very good. I guess one of the things, is there any changes? A lot of times, because one of the things that people say about when they go to the mall is it's always very busy. Any changes to how this will affect parking or people getting to the property? Yes,
actually, I'm glad you asked that. So with this new development area, we're actually going to have 3 new mall entrances on this side of the building.
Okay.
And so that should make getting into the mall, so right now everybody wants to park near the 3 existing mall entrances. And the perception is that there's no parking because everybody wants to park in those few spaces. Nobody wants to park at the outer edge of Macy's or, up against Middlesex Turnpike. But what this will do is now people will be able to get into this side and use the large parking lot by Mall Road where Sears used to be, which they really didn't use all that often. And it'll spread that demand out. It'll also spread the demand on the entrances out, so in particular by Middlesex Turnpike. So we have 3 entrances off of Middlesex Turnpike. One by Crate and Barrel, sort of one in between Crate and Barrel and where the Sears Auto or the Village building is going to be. And then there's the one right next to the Village. And so that entrance is going to become used a lot more.
Okay.
And so that's going to spread these things out.
And maybe also make it a little bit easier for people to get off of Middlesex Turnpike into the property.
Yeah, right, exactly. So if you're ever backed up in traffic trying to get in December, just go to that next entrance. You'll get in no problem.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll keep that just to the Burlington residents.
Yeah, right.
That's
okay.
Watch BCAT. And
Yep.
we'll let all the out-of-towners, struggle.
Yeah. Well, and the other piece of this too is, so we're going to have all these new restaurants, and the way that works is that people tend to shop in retail at a certain time. It's usually during the day, but they come to restaurants mostly at night. So it's actually going to spread the traffic pattern of when people come and take that demand and kind of change it, the time at which they show up. So I think we're going to see, it should be easier for people. Despite what it looks like,
right.
It really should be easier. And we had our engineers confirm all of this stuff for us.
Right, so what you're saying is that even though you might have more people per day at the mall because of all these properties, will be at different times of the day.
And it'll be spread out, and so the parking demand and the traffic demands will be easier to handle.
Very good. And, so this is a big project. I know that, it took a while to kind of go through. How has the process been, from the conception to now, like going through, getting everything kind of settled with the town, and like what's been, the process of?
What's the process been like?
Yeah, I mean, how have you found a lot of good reception to the?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody realizes that the mall needs to continue to change and evolve, just like all businesses do, right? You're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. And I think the largest taxpayer in town moving backwards would be bad for everybody. So I think everybody realizes that, and we definitely appreciate it. And then moving through the process, we've got some really good feedback. I think the planning board gave us some really good feedback, and that's one of the reasons why we elected to do the sidewalk that connects Middlesex Turnpike to the mall. I think some of the bus shelter locations adding in was a result of the planning discussions that we've had, and the overall pedestrian connectivity was improved as a result of those discussions. So we're happy with the way the process has played out.
So it's been like a working partnership with the town as far as getting this done.
Absolutely.
Well, that's good. It's always good to hear, because sometimes it can be difficult, but it's nice when both sides can work together to try to come up with a product that.
Well, I think anytime you have a project of this magnitude and a property that hasn't been touched on that side for 50 years, it's going to be a little difficult. But we're really happy with the way that things have worked out, and with the partnership with the town.
And the last thing I just wanted to talk about, unless you have something else to add that we haven't touched upon yet, it seems like this is a good project as far as opening up the demographic, trying to get more young people in. Is that part of the idea? Some of the early options that we've talked about, and just in general, lower price tag places. Is this a way of trying to also, attract that, what everyone's trying to attract?
The millennial demographic?
The millennial demographic.
I think certainly that's part of it, but we try to appeal to everybody. It's not just the millennial demographic. It's also, the shopper that lives in Burlington, which is not necessarily a millennial. They tend to be a little bit older, a little bit more established. Our market goes from southern New Hampshire all the way to Sudbury. And so that's who we're appealing to, that split of demographics.
So it's a catch-all. It's
yes.
not just the millennial,
Burlington should be a place for everybody.
Yes, and we have quite a bit of options. So I guess offering more is just a way of getting more people to come in and use your space. So is there anything that we haven't touched upon as far as this project goes that you think people would be interested or should know about?
We're getting ready to launch a new website.
Oh, okay.
It'll actually be a page that you can get off of our existing website. That's probably the better way to say it. So that'll go out, I think, within the next couple of weeks. So that'll talk about what we're doing, the new retailers. They'll be announced on there. Of course, they'll all go out through you and your group as well.
Yes. We try to jump on anytime.
Yeah, but I would say keep in touch with our website, simon.com, and then just type in Burlington Mall so you can see everything that's going on here, and then look for that redevelopment page.
And have you gotten a lot of interest from the public, people wanting to know what's going on?
It's the number one question I get. What's going on? Who's coming in? What can you tell me? Come on, it's okay, you can tell me. Yeah, all of that.
Well, you can tell me too. I won't tell anyone.
I know. Nobody's listening. Yeah, it's okay.
So just to recap, first stores are starting to open up just this month.
Yeah,
or the end of this
Cafe
month.
Nero is under construction. It's not quite going to look like this, but pretty close.
Sure.
And they'll be open by the end of the month, and then the rest of this building will slowly start to open after that. It'll happen organically.
Exciting. So should be an interesting holiday season for you guys over there.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're excited about it.
All right.
What I
Yes.
did want to add to that is parking in terms of construction fence.
Oh, sure.
So that the construction fence that's there, that's all going to come down, and all of the parking around the property is going to be opened up by the end of October, beginning of November. So
Okay.
nobody should worry about coming to the mall and parking during holiday season. Everything is going to be back open. In fact, it should be easier. Just park on that side.
Okay. So well before Black Friday, you'll have all that.
Yes.
The parking will
Yep.
be fully open and available for people.
Exactly.
Well, I think it's very exciting. I know I'm like you. I've gotten a lot of people asking me what I know about this. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming in and letting us know. And people
Sure.
can follow your website, and we will report every time a new store comes in, new restaurant comes in, and we'll be excited to see what happens.
Absolutely. Thank
All
you
right.
for having me.
Well, thank you
Yep,
very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So there you have it, an in-depth look at the incoming The Village at Burlington Mall project. Up next, we take a wider look at malls and retail both now and in the future with BACC President Rick Parker and attorney and overall expert in development projects, Bob Buckley. Let's take a look. All right. Joining me now to talk about malls in general, what sort of trends they've been seeing and what might be in the future for malls. I am now joined by Burlington Area Chamber of Commerce President Rick Parker and attorney Bob Buckley of Reamer and Braunstein. Thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So I know this is something, Bob, that you've thought about because I've heard you talk about it before. Just to talk about some of the trends or some that we've seen over the last decade or two, as far as where malls were back in maybe what you'd call the heyday and where they are now.
It's very interesting. Malls were at one time a socialization experience where, at least in my youth, it was probably, I'm a lot older than you, Rick.
Yes, 2
I'm
years.
very older than you, Rich. That's how, people went there to socialize and grow up. It was totally an experience of socialization. And it was a retail. That's where you went. You bought and experienced the youth. And today, it's totally different. It's the internet. It's an industry that's trying desperately to reinvent itself, and surprisingly, it's coming back to socialization. It's discovering the entertainment, the communication aspects of it. You're going to see malls, I think, become destinations for dining, for innovative theater, for live theater performances, special events, to try to bring people back to socialize. The days of going, in my youth, going to large department stores at the Christmas rush to go downtown Boston and go to a Filene's or a Jordan's and go to a store that may have 300,000-400,000 square feet and have the experience, I don't think are going to exist. But the days of going to a store that has a number of restaurants and small boutique shops and the experience of the ambiance, I think that's what's going to happen. And it's an evolution, and there are going to be a lot of trips on the way. People are going to try to get it right. I mean, frankly, things are moving so fast. Think of it. Amazon is how old? 12 years?
12
years.
Yeah.
Started out as a book company 12
Right.
years ago. You can buy everything on Amazon. And in 12 years, what has it done to the retail industry? So, how does an industry reinvent itself in 12 years ago? I mean, think of it. 12 years ago, retail industries, malls, were thinking about, well, people come to us and we shop. We handle their needs. Now, within a period of 12 years, it's I go and I look and I shop online, and maybe I go and I touch and I feel, and then I go back and I order it.
Yeah, people, that is a trend that I've heard of people doing. They
Right,
go,
right.
you shop, you look at it, but then you actually just buy it on,
Right.
on your phone.
Right.
What have you been, because I know, you're obviously, have your ear to the ground as far as what's going on with businesses in town. What have you seen as far as the impact of online shopping?
Well, I think, excuse me, we've seen the shopping habits of consumers, especially with the advent of online shopping, is happening faster than ever. There are places like our own mall that need to adapt as this is happening rather than try to do a total remake. There are other areas that have the advantage of being able to start with a new development, knowing what the rules of engagement are right now and knowing what the consumer's habits are. It's the malls that are in existence that have the challenge of being able to adapt to those changing habits of the consumer while offering more of an experiential shopping experience. To be able to go and say, I'm going to go to a destination and get many things that I can't get online. Being able to touch, see, feel, and look at the exact product that you're going to buy still means something to the consumer. There are certainly things, and Bob had mentioned, Amazon got into the book business. I think people know that if they buy a book online, they will get exactly the book they're looking for. That doesn't necessarily translate to a lot of the other products that are out there. And what the malls are trying to do is make sure that they not only meet that shopping experience, but they're filling in the gaps with restaurants, entertainment, and those experiences that can't be duplicated online.
Just as an aside, there was just a stat this week when Amazon had their Prime Days. And those 2 days, they exceeded Black Friday and Cyber Monday combined.
Wow.
That's
just one company.
That is one incredible number. But I think you're going to see people still like to get out and touch, feel, and look at the merchandise, but maybe not lug it around the mall. They may want to go to a mall and say, I'm going to go and I'm going to look at the jacket that I want to buy. I want to try it on. I want to touch it. I want to feel it. I want to order it. And by the time I get home, maybe it's going to be delivered. So I can buy the jacket. I can try it on, go through all the experiences of shopping and go have dinner and not have to lug the merchandise and put it in the car.
Yeah.
When you think about it, we have gone from 2-day delivery to 1-day delivery to hours now. It is an incredible scenario. So things change rapidly, and as I started in the beginning, saying we're going back to that socialization. I hear all the time, how do all the restaurants survive? Well, go around. They're all busy. People want that experience, and there'll be varieties. There'll be, you have to hit the various price points, and you have to have different experiences. But you have to locate them in a way to bring the people down to central locations for a number of reasons. You manage traffic that way. You manage the shopping experience or the experience itself that way. But it's a planning problem. And you're going to see healthcare being delivered at malls, and you're going to see education being delivered at malls.
All right, I can see
you're seeing it in other parts of the country where you'll have Saturday classes, Saturday morning. You'll have, think of some of the major stores where you have 300,000-400,000 square foot plates with merchandise. Do you need that much space? Maybe you start having classroom space, on a Saturday or maybe in the afternoon, and you have classes.
To Bob's point, I think you're seeing people like in the Lowe's and Home Depot area offering classes that correlate to additional sales. People learning how to do something may add to the experience that they're getting there. It's not simply just the shopping experience. There's value added. And I think you're going to see more and more of that happening where the consumer is being educated on what other choices are. And again, it's things that they can get by being there locally and not be duplicated in an online experience.
So get a class on how to use some certain tools, and then you'll want to buy those tools because now you know how they work.
Or if we talk about, Bob had mentioned plates and dishes.
A cooking class.
To be able to understand some of the other things that are out there in cooking, and you've already got somebody who's interested in looking at, whether it be home furnishings, to talk about what the trends are, things that they can't experiencing online. Certainly you can do a Google search and get information, but when someone is there representing an expert right in front of you, where you can have that face-to-face Q&A, that means a lot. So it's finding those experiences that can't be duplicated, and it's a work in progress. I think you'll see the malls. There's some malls in the area that have been very successful at adapting to changing times. Others haven't, and they're seeing a complete overhaul with some of newer trends that are coming into the market, where the ones who are adapting as the market changes are able to continue to survive. We see that here locally. Our mall's been very, very effective in changing and meeting the demands of the consumers. The parking lot still has many cars out there. It's hard to find a parking spot sometimes, and that's just an indication of the success of being able to adapt for changing times.
Now, it seems like one of the possible adaptations that malls will go through is, up until now, malls have been a lot, known for their anchor stores. But the Burlington Mall, as we know, lost one with Sears. Do you think that trend will continue, that it will be more small, niche businesses rather than the big, Macy's, Filene's, everything like that?
Tell me an anchor. There aren't any anchors anymore. Those major retailers are gone. In the old days, you would take a Macy's or a Sears or a Filene's, or would name the anchors, and they essentially would pay very little rent and have tremendous rights, because the idea would be you would be bringing those shoppers in to supplement and support the other retailers in the mall. You don't need that anymore, so you're not going to give up the rights, if you're an operator of a mall, to handle all of that. You don't need them. And you don't want to give up the rights to change on the fly. So if you're an anchor and you control the operation of that mall because of your rights under your agreements, and you have to be able to adapt quickly, and you choose not to adapt, that you can't, as an operator, have that much control in one entity or two entities. Because we'd use the example, in 12 years, things have changed dramatically. You may change in 6 years and have to reinvent yourself. You can't have someone stop you. That's why, the things that make malls work, and it's very expensive, are the common areas. The internal space. You've got to heat it. You've got to have electricity to light it. You've got to, provide the ambiance. That's an expensive proposition that all the tenants pay for. So in order to defray that cost, you've got to bring activities, and you've got to create that foot traffic and activities that fund that, and that's where the creativity is going to be. But I think the days of the major anchors are over. So,
if I could just add on to what Bob mentioned, the ability to change quickly. Historically, we've seen companies that would come in and, you're signing a 5-year lease as a minimum. You would never hear of things like a pop-up retail store. Right. They're looking for opportunities to meet the demands of the consumer. You really have to say, what would it take to get you to get in your car and drive to a destination? It has to be at least a twofer, and sometimes a 3 or 4-fer, where you're not only going to eat, you're going to shop, maybe check out the latest technology in a store, and really get that experience that will get you out of the house. The great thing about local business, and this is my chamber plug,
absolutely,
we're employing local residents. We're feeding the tax base. With all due respect to Amazon, I've yet to see a baseball team sponsored by Amazon locally, and this provides a real engine for our economy. So it's something that we're very in favor of, people supporting local business, but also working both ends so that the retailers can understand the buying habits of the consumers and meet those demands in today's marketplace. The competition is more fierce than it's ever been with online and discount retailers that don't have the costs associated with a brick and mortar store. And we're trying to make sure that the local economy understands where the employment and revenues and tax base comes from.
And I think you're right there, Rick, because that goes back to the socialization. People, it's a low cost way to socialize. As I said, growing up, when you had nothing to do, you went to the mall.
Yeah.
You hung out at the mall, and you went with your friends. You maybe you went with a couple bucks in your pocket and you bought something, but it was a way of, it was a rite of passage, and it's a way people want to socialize, and out of that socialization comes that retail experience, that entertainment experience, and malls will try to capture that. I don't think malls per se are going to go away. I think you're going to see a mixture of those stores, and I do think those smaller merchants, those boutique type shops, have a place in the mall, but the economics will have to be reinvented to make those work. And the way you make that work is you change the mixture of the format so that the anchors are replaced by the restaurants or the entertainment venues that drive the bus now, not the mega department stores that bring the people in to fund those smaller format stores. And that's why you see stores that no longer have an expansive backroom operation to store merchandise that, you know, that you come in and you say, okay, my size is X, okay, we have it out back.
Right.
What they'll say, because it's expensive, if you're paying X dollars per square foot out front, you're still paying X dollars per square foot out back for the same space. And that's very expensive because, as I said, you got to pay for that common area. So what you do now, because we've tried to solve that equation for shipping merchandise, we'll have that to you tomorrow. You need a size 34 long suit, we'll have that to you tomorrow. So, or maybe even this afternoon, if you order by 11, we have that algorithm that can get it to you. So that means that space that heretofore was for storage is now retail space, which means the merchant makes more. That means that we can afford to pay the rent, which means we can provide the amenities.
So less of a, you know, like you said, I remember, you know, always try on the shoe and
yeah,
go
everything's
back and get
interrelated.
it. And now we just sort of say, all right, and then you get home and maybe the drone follows you home with the merchandise flying above your car.
That's recording your license plate.
Well, it's got to make sure it's going in the right spot. One of the things, you know, we talked about changes of anchor stores, and I think one of the other big changes that we're seeing, especially with the Burlington Mall renovation, is, you know, I think a lot of people have this image of going to the mall to get something to eat. You go to the food court.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of like, you know, walk up, sit down in a common area. But it seems now there's more of a push towards actual smaller restaurants, and ones with liquor licenses, which is something that's going on with the Burlington Mall right now. Do you think that is going to be the trend, that it's going to be more like you know, an inside Third Ave kind of thing? It's
Yeah,
going to more.
You know, people are looking for the relaxation experience. I mean, there's a balance. I think that you can't have just high-end restaurants because it's going to price people out of the market, and it's going to encourage people to do things like drink at home and then come down, which is a bad thing. But the problem with a food court is that the adults who are spending the money, who are at the retail establishments, sometimes the noise level is not a relaxing experience.
Sure.
So you want that ambiance if you're trying to create that mix. So you need those establishments where you can strike that balance. So you know, the liquor licenses are important. The mixture of the types of restaurants are important. A food court is important for families. But you also need a mix of restaurants across the gamut of product and price points. So,
Yeah, I think we saw a shift some years back now where the anchor stores went from the large retailers to some of the restaurants that were able to draw in people for dinner and a shopping experience rather than vice versa. It's incumbent upon the property managers to keep one step ahead of the consumers, and certainly with the online choice, it's added many more challenges. I think you've seen that there's some retailers now are taking on that they'll take the returns from Amazon where they're able to demonstrate the human factor. The human factor has been taken out, and if everything goes well with your Amazon purchase, well, that's great. But if it doesn't, you get involved with a return process, and we've seen some of the retailers getting involved with taking those returns so they're able to get their customer service back in front of the customer and get that experience. And hopefully while they're out, they'll go to a restaurant, they'll look at some of the other retail options and really remember what that mall experience was about. And it really was the true, getting it all done in one place. And so hopefully, as we see the market continue to evolve with the restaurant experience and the retail experience and the adaptability, that the malls will continue to play, a large part of the local retail scene.
I think that's the key. The malls are taking the technology and trying to adapt it into convenience and like technology, so delivery, using the adaptability that you're not lugging merchandise around and then going out to your car. You can buy the product and have it delivered quickly, so then you can go and relax and have an entertaining experience. And so they're trying to fine-tune that and things of that nature. But, this is a personal pet peeve. I see no reason why malls don't have black box theaters or venues for entertainment where you could go to dinner and then take in a show. Not a major venue, but a production or something that is, some communities do it very well. That it's something small and intimate that becomes routine and it becomes an attraction, so that the mall becomes a destination that is interconnected with other destinations, and they all work together to create an experience. So.
Now, one of the things, you had mentioned a couple of times is the possibility of, rather than carrying things around, having, selecting something and having it delivered to you. That seems to open up one of the other big, issues that people might have when they're thinking about going to the mall, is trying to find parking. If you don't have to carry around something, public transportation of some kind becomes a lot more feasible. Do you think that malls of the future will have their own shuttle systems or tie into town and city systems? How does not having necessarily to lug stuff around sort of change how people might get to the mall?
Well, I think the malls, historically as we knew it, were based on, that you're going to get here with a car. Certainly out in the suburbs, public transportation has its limitations, but to your point, if someone could have the things, delivered to their home, what stops people from getting on their bike, getting down there, or finding alternate routes to get to the mall, make that experience where I'm not carrying that bag around. The bottom line is the market will adapt to the consumer's habits. Like never before, the market changes quick enough to capture what the consumer wants. And the brick and mortar facilities have to find a way to deliver something that the online experience cannot. And so I think certainly if you were able to shop and have these things delivered through a service, then how you got there, you can walk to the mall and not have to worry about carrying, that refrigerator home.
Living in the city, it is hilarious sometimes to see people trying to get on the T.
Oh, sure.
with a 40-inch television set, So, no, but it is going to take a reordering of some priorities. We have become, also from a convenience standpoint, because heretofore when you buy something, you need your automobile. But if it's, because we're a society that it's immediate gratification. If I have been thinking about buying that new computer and I want that computer, so I'm going down on Saturday morning and I'm buying that computer, so I'm going to spend the rest of the afternoon setting it up. But if I know that if I buy that at 10, it's going to be at my home by 2, maybe I don't have to drive down. Maybe, I have a robust transportation network or whatever. Mm-hmm. But that has to come both from the federal, state, and local level at coordinating traffic. Years ago I did a mall out in the Berkshires, the Berkshire Village Outlet Mall, and it's up on the hill off of Exit 2 in the Berkshires off the Mass Pike, and they were worried about what it was going to do to the downtown town of Lee. And one of the amenities that we provided was a character shuttle. It was like a trolley that ran every 15 minutes back and forth between downtown and the village and the shopping center. So there was ample parking up at the shopping center, but not downtown. So it was like a central parking area, and you could go back and forth all day, and it worked extraordinarily well. And when you do planning, that's what you have to think about. But in some respects, when developers or municipalities, it's almost like a fiefdom mentality. I can't interact with this because I'm taking business away from X, and there's not that interaction between, I'm going to shop here, then I'm going to go over to lunch here, and I'm going to go here next, and there should be that coordination. And, would merchants pay for that? I bet they would.
Yeah, I mean, we could have that here in
Yeah.
Burlington, go from the mall, down Mall Road,
Right.
into the town center.
And people say, well, that's a big concept. Well, all big concepts start with little steps. And
Right.
so you get people in a room and you start saying, as you know, as you did it on the shuttle services, you've got to start somewhere. And you've got to start the discussion. And you're going to run into walls constantly. But sooner or later, you're going to find the door. And when you go through the door, you're going to say, there's another door. And sooner or later, somebody's going to say, geez, I wonder who started this process. But you just have to keep going forward. So, but there's a lot of change happening.
Yeah, seems like it. A lot of innovation,
Right,
adaptation at the malls. I just really want to touch real briefly before we wrap up on, you had mentioned at the top, back in the day, malls were, the social place, and a lot of it was the social place for the young people. I remember that's where we'd go as teenagers, mostly because it was air conditioned. But are malls still, do you think, a place that teenagers want to go, and if not, what can they do better to attract that demographic?
Well, I can certainly speak to the local mall. It's a mall of many faces. If you go there first thing in the morning, you'll see seniors using it as an exercise spot where they're within air conditioning, the ability to relax, look around before the stores are opening. And then later on in the day, the families come in, and teenagers as well. You see charging stations, there are games, this interactive message that Bob talked about with the common areas are being utilized to keep people entertained and keep people there, to give them something to be doing while they wait. Historically, you had the what we called the husband's bench, while the woman would shop and the husband would sit there. Well, now there's plenty of things for everyone to do.
The husband's bench?
That's what they called it when I sat on it.
This is 2019.
The partner's bench.
Partners,
there you
thank you. It's an interesting concept because I think today, what I'm seeing, the malls provided a sense where you could, years ago, determine fashions, and the youth could see what's cool, what's not cool, what's in the store window, what are other kids wearing. Now, between the internet and 320 TV
Right.
stations, and they're constantly bombarded with what's cool. I don't know whether it provides such an important place, but it is a point where they can meet to socialize. The question is, do they have the place? Are they, where they can, go buy a burger and a soda or whatever? Is it attractive for that type of socialization? I don't know.
Well, we'll see, because as we can tell, the Burlington Mall has got quite a bit of change coming. And,
Yeah, well, I remember when it was. Do you remember when it was one level?
Absolutely.
And I remember there was reluctance to go to the second level until I believe it was a selectman that said he used to drop his grandchildren off there, and they realized that it was so important that was a place of socialization, that it was really important for the kids.
Yeah.
And that's, that was, a place that was kind of like a gathering spot. And, while they're there, they're not doing something else. So, and you're right, when you go there in the morning, it's amazing how many people use it to walk. And so it is an asset. It's a tremendous asset. And, you talk to some people in town who are involved with trying to create a river walk to integrate that mall area with other properties in the area. It could really be a gem of an asset, so that you can go down there, shop, dine, go for I don't say a nature walk, is not the right word,
stroll through the district.
Right, and take in the ambiance and go home at 5. So there's a lot of canvas to play with, but things change so rapidly, and to stay up on it is a daunting task. Again, I go back 12 years ago.
Right.
They sold books,
Yeah.
and they changed the whole industry in 12 years. So,
So things will keep on changing, and we'll have
Right.
you back in another 12 years. We'll see where we are.
yeah.
Thanks,
All right.
Rich.
Well, thank you very
I
much.
don't know if
for-
you'll have me on.
Oh, I'm sure we will. All right. I appreciate you both
All right.
coming in and
Thanks.
sharing your thoughts and expertise.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
That was a pleasure.
And there you have it, a deep look at the Village at Burlington Mall, which is going to be opening shortly, and the work being done here in the former Sears building, which is still underway. And also a discussion on malls and retail in both now and in the future. I'd like to thank my guests, Justin Feldhouse, Rick Parker, and Bob Buckley for sharing their thoughts and expertise. I'd also like to thank all of you for watching. We'll be back next month with another edition of BNews In Depth. Stay tuned.